My husband promised me forever when we married at 19, but after I had our baby, he changed overnight until I found a hidden phone in his car that revealed the other life he was living without me. They say love is blind, but when you're 19 and think you've found your soulmate, you're not just blind, you're deaf, naive, and completely invincible. Or at least, that's what I thought when I married Mason. I met Mason the summer after high school graduation at a 4th of July barbecue in our tiny Ohio town. He had that effortless charm, the kind that makes everyone in the room lean in just a little closer when he talks. I was wearing a red sundress with daisies on it, one my mom picked out for me, and Mason told me I looked like a walking sunset. I blushed so hard I had to turn away. We started talking that night and never really stopped. For the first time in my life, someone made me feel like more than just the quiet girl in the back of class. I wasn't just Ava who likes books. I was beautiful. I was funny. I was seen. Mason didn't waste time. Within a few months, we were inseparable. We moved in together that fall, both working part-time jobs and barely scraping by, but it didn't matter. We shared burnt pancakes and hand-me-down furniture and dreams that stretched far beyond our zip code. When he proposed that Christmas with a simple silver band and shaking hands, I said yes without blinking. Our wedding was small, just close family and friends in my parents' backyard, but it felt perfect. He promised me forever that day. He whispered it into my ear when we danced under the string lights, and again that night when we curled up in our tiny apartment talking about what our future would look like. A house with a porch, a golden retriever, 2 kids, maybe 3. At 19, I thought that's all love needed. Promises, smiles, a little faith. I never imagined how quickly those promises could turn into silence. Things were good at first. We were poor, sure, but so were most young couples. We made it work. We clipped coupons, skipped nights out, and saved every penny for the someday we were building. Mason picked up work at a mechanic's garage while I took classes at the community college, studying early childhood education. Life wasn't glamorous, but it felt like ours. And then I got pregnant. It wasn't planned, but when the test turned positive, Mason pulled me into his arms and told me everything was going to be okay. "We're a team," he said, rubbing my belly even before it started to show. "We got this." For 9 months, he held my hand through cravings and morning sickness and swollen ankles. He built the crib by hand. He played guitar to my belly at night. I remember thinking, this is the kind of man I married. This is what real love looks like. But something shifted the moment our daughter, Lily, was born. At first, I blamed exhaustion. The late night feedings, the endless crying, the constant worry of whether I was doing anything right. But Mason started pulling away. Subtly, at first. He stopped texting me during his breaks. He came home later and later, always blaming traffic or a job that ran long. He slept on the couch just for a night because Lily's crying kept him awake. I told myself it was normal. That having a baby was hard. That men just struggled to adjust. I excused every cold glance, every sarcastic comment, every time he flinched when I tried to hug him. But then came the lies. I was at the garage late, he'd say, but I'd find his work boots clean and dry. Or he'd say he was grabbing a beer with coworkers, but forget which bar they supposedly went to. One night, I called the garage just to ask when Mason would be off, and the guy on the phone said Mason hadn't worked that day at all. I felt like I was going crazy. Every time I asked questions, he got defensive. He called me paranoid, told me I was acting hormonal or clingy, that I was just stressed from being a new mom. But I knew something was off. Lily was barely 3 months old when I first noticed the car. It was a silver Nissan I'd never seen before, parked across the street from our apartment. It was there almost every night, always around the time Mason came home late. At first, I thought it was a neighbor. But then one evening, I caught a glimpse of someone sitting inside it, a woman. Alone. On her phone. She didn't look like she lived in the building. I asked Mason about it casually, trying not to sound suspicious. "You think it's weird that car is always out there?" He shrugged. "Probably some Uber driver or something. Don't worry about it." But I did worry. I watched that car every night for a week. And every night it arrived a little before Mason. then pulled away about 10 minutes after he got home. My gut screamed at me that something was wrong. Still, I did nothing. Because the truth is, I wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe the man who held my hand in the delivery room, who cried when Lily opened her eyes for the first time. I wanted my forever to still mean something. But forever was starting to feel like a lie. One night, Mason came home and threw his keys on the counter without a word. He didn't even glance at Lily, who was fussing in her crib. I asked if he wanted to hold her, and he rolled his eyes. I just walked in the door, Ava. Can I get a minute to breathe? I blinked back tears. I'm sorry. I just thought. Yeah, well, stop thinking, he snapped, grabbing a beer and disappearing into the bedroom. That night, while Lily slept on my chest, I stared at the ceiling and realized something I never thought I'd have to admit to myself. I didn't know my husband anymore. And worse, I didn't know if I wanted to. I didn't go looking for secrets at first. I wanted to believe I was wrong, that maybe Mason was just going through something. That maybe this version of him, cold, distant, irritated, was temporary. But deep down, I knew I just didn't want to face it. Then came the night I found the lipstick stain. It was on his white undershirt, faint but undeniable, a soft pink smudge near the collar. My breath caught in my throat as I stared at it, heart thudding. I wasn't wearing lipstick that day. I hadn't worn makeup in weeks. I waited until he came home, shirt already changed, and held it up in front of him. What's this? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. He didn't even look surprised. Just annoyed. Probably Lily spit something on it, he muttered. Lily wears pink lipstick now? He glared at me. Are you seriously accusing me of something? You really think I cheat on you when we just had a baby? I wanted to believe him. God, I did. But his eyes didn't have the panic or guilt of someone falsely accused, just boredom. Like he was tired of being questioned. Still, I dropped it. Because that's what I learned to do. Shrink myself down, walk on eggshells, and pray I wasn't crazy. But I started noticing more. His phone, once left lying around the house, was now glued to his side. He kept it on silent, always face down. He'd go to the bathroom and stay in there for 20 minutes with the shower running, but the water never steamed up the mirror. Once, I walked in after he left and found his phone still sitting on the counter. For a split second, I considered unlocking it, but I didn't know the new passcode. He changed it, without telling me. That same night, while he slept like nothing was wrong, I stared at the ceiling and made a decision I never thought I'd make. I was going to follow him. I felt sick even thinking about it. This wasn't who I was. I hated secrets, hated games. But I needed to know the truth. For Lily. For my sanity. For the person I used to be before love made me blind. The next morning, I told Mason I had a dentist appointment and asked if he could stay with Lily for a couple hours. He agreed, half distracted, scrolling on his phone. As soon as I left the apartment, I parked around the corner and waited. It took about 15 minutes. He left the apartment dressed in jeans and a black hoodie, not his usual garage uniform. He walked down the block like he didn't have a care in the world and climbed into a car that definitely wasn't his. My stomach flipped. It was the same silver Nissan. From across the street, I watched the car pull away. A woman was driving. Brunette, maybe early 30s. Too far to see her face clearly, but I knew instantly, this wasn't work. I followed at a distance, heart pounding so hard it hurt. They didn't go to a restaurant. They didn't go to the garage. They went to a house. A house I'd never seen before, tucked away in a quiet neighborhood on the other side of town. They parked in the driveway and went inside together. My fingers trembled as I gripped the steering wheel. I didn't know what I expected, maybe an office, a park, even just driving around. But this? A whole house? Who was she? What was this? I sat there for nearly an hour, pulse racing, staring at the front door. Then something in me snapped. I wasn't going to wait for answers anymore. That night, Mason came home like always. Kissed Lily on the forehead. Kissed me on the cheek, like he always did when he wanted to pretend nothing was wrong. And I smiled back. Because I had a plan now. The next day, I borrowed my friend Kara's car while she babysat Lily. I told her I had something important to do. She looked at me with concern but didn't ask questions. That's the kind of friend she was. I drove back to the house, parked a few houses down, waited until the woman left. Then I got out and walked straight to the driveway. The silver Nissan was still there. I peered into the windows, heart in my throat. The front seat was messy, coffee cups, a scarf tossed over the back. But something caught my eye near the passenger side. A phone. Not Mason's usual phone. It was black, older looking, and tucked awkwardly under the seat. I could barely see it. My pulse quickened. I had a crazy thought. What if he'd been using a second phone? One I didn't know about? I circled around the car, heart thudding. The back window was cracked slightly open, just enough for someone desperate enough to slip their fingers through. I didn't think. I just reached in and unlocked the door. The phone was dead, but I took it. I rushed back to the car, shaking all over. My hands were sweating, my legs weak. But I'd done it. I had the missing piece. At home, I charged it in secret. I sat in the closet like a teenager hiding from their parents, staring at the screen while it powered up. My heart felt like it was going to explode. When it finally turned on, the lock screen lit up. No password. The first thing I saw were the messages. There were hundreds. All from one contact. B. Some were explicit. Some were just check-ins. Some were videos. One of them was a video of Mason holding someone else's baby. My vision went blurry. The baby was maybe a few months older than Lily. Dark curly hair. Mason was kissing her forehead, calling her daddy's girl. My ears started ringing. My entire body went numb. This wasn't just cheating. This was another life. He had a whole other family. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. I sat on the floor of Lily's nursery, holding her tiny hand as she slept, whispering over and over, "I'm so sorry, baby." I had no idea what I was apologizing for. Maybe for bringing her into a world that wasn't whole. Maybe for trusting someone who didn't deserve us, or maybe just for not seeing the truth sooner. The video played on loop in my head. Mason cradling that baby like he once cradled Lily. His voice, so soft, so familiar, saying, "Daddy loves you so much." He looked at that other baby the way I thought he looked at ours. And that woman, B, she wasn't just some random affair. She was part of his real life. A second life. One he'd been living while I was bleeding and healing and nursing and crying at home, thinking he was just tired or distant or stressed. He had another family. A whole other child. And he had lied to me every single day. I spent the next morning gathering everything I could, screenshots, dates, messages, anything to make sure he couldn't talk his way out of this. I even took photos of the video. I didn't know what I was going to do with it yet, but I needed it. I waited until he came home. It was almost 9:30 p.m., his usual now. He walked in smelling faintly of cologne, not motor oil, not sweat. Something expensive. Something unfamiliar. I was sitting at the kitchen table with the phone in my hand. He paused when he saw me. "Hey," he said, like nothing was wrong. "Why are you still up?" I didn't answer right away. Just held up the phone and hit play on the video. His entire face drained of color. "What the hell is this?" I asked, voice trembling but steady enough. He didn't move. Didn't blink. Just stood there as the video played. "I found it in her car," I said. "The silver Nissan. The one that always drops you off down the street. You know, the one you said was probably an Uber?" Silence. When the video ended, I looked him dead in the eyes. "Say something." He opened his mouth, then closed it again. Then, finally, he spoke. "It's not what you think." I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was so pathetic. The classic line. The line every cheating husband in every movie says right before the woman throws a glass at his head. "Really?" I said. "Because I think you have a second kid. A second life. And I think you've been lying to me every single day since our daughter was born." Still, he didn't deny it. "I didn't mean for it to happen," he muttered finally. "Oh, so you accidentally had another child?" I snapped. Is that how that works? He rubbed his face, pacing now. It started before you even got pregnant, okay? Me and Bianca, we were just messing around. I didn't think it was serious. And then she got pregnant, but by then, so did you. I didn't know what to do. Bianca. B. So that was her name. My hands shook in my lap, but I kept my voice low. So you decided to do both. Play house with me and with her. Be a dad to 2 babies in 2 homes, lying to both of us? He looked away. She knew about you. I didn't think you'd find out. Something about that hit me harder than anything else. She knew. She knew I existed. She knew I was married to him. She knew about Lily. But I didn't know about her. That wasn't just betrayal. That was humiliation. You made me feel like I was crazy, I whispered. You looked me in the eye and told me you loved me while you were leaving to go be with her. You kissed Lily goodbye and then kissed another baby, hello, like it was normal. I didn't know what else to do, he shouted suddenly. You wanted the perfect family, and I was just trying to keep everything from falling apart. No, I said firmly, rising to my feet. I wanted honesty. I wanted the man who held my hand and said forever. And instead, I got someone who was too much of a coward to pick one life. He didn't say anything. The silence between us was louder than any fight. After a long pause, he finally spoke again. I don't love her, Ava. I swear, it got complicated. But I still love you. I want us to work this out. I stared at him, barely able to comprehend what I was hearing. Work this out? I said slowly. You think this is something we can just work out? Like a disagreement over who takes the trash out? He stepped closer. Please, don't throw away our family. I backed away. You already did that, I said, voice trembling. The moment you chose to lie. The moment you stepped into her house while mine was falling apart. His eyes filled with tears. But I didn't feel sorry for him. Not anymore. I'm done, Mason, I said, voice breaking. I'm done. I picked up Lily from her crib that night, packed a bag with trembling hands, and drove to my parents' house. I didn't answer his calls. I didn't read his texts. Because there was nothing left to say. I had spent 2 years loving someone who never existed. A man who smiled at me with one face and betrayed me with the other. But not anymore. The truth had burned everything down. And now, it was time to rebuild. The first night away from Mason felt like waking up from a nightmare and realizing you're still falling. I stayed in my old childhood bedroom, Lily sleeping beside me in her bassinet while I stared at the glow in the dark stars still stuck to the ceiling. I hadn't been home in years. The furniture looked smaller now. My trophies and photos still lined the shelves. But I was no longer the girl in those pictures. That girl had hope. She believed in forever. I'd left that version of myself behind the day I walked down the aisle. My parents didn't ask many questions, at least not at first. My mom opened the front door and saw the look on my face, puffy from crying, tired beyond explanation, and just pulled me into her arms. Dad helped carry my bags in and set up a portable crib for Lily. It was the first time in months I felt like someone had me. I told them everything the next morning. My mom went quiet. My dad got that tight-jawed look he always did when he was trying not to explode. He what? Dad said, his voice low and dangerous. He has another kid? While living under your roof? I nodded, tears brimming again. I didn't want to believe it. But I saw it. I have proof. My mom shook her head slowly, eyes filled with a sorrow that made my chest ache. You don't deserve this, Ava. You never did. For days, I was numb. The kind of numb where everything feels like you're watching yourself live from outside your body. I went through the motions, feeding Lily, changing diapers, washing bottles, answering texts from worried friends. I smiled when people asked if I was okay and lied when they said, "You're so strong." Because I didn't feel strong. I felt broken. But life has a way of moving forward, even when you don't want it to. Babies don't care if your heart's been shattered. They still need to be fed every 3 hours. They still cry and giggle and wrap their tiny fingers around yours like you're their whole world. And in a way, I was Lily's whole world. That thought anchored me when everything else felt like it was drifting away. I started writing again. Just little notes in my journal. Not about Mason, at least not at first, but about Lily. About the way her nose scrunched when she sneezed. About how she kicked her legs in her sleep. About how she looked up at me like I was magic, even when I felt like a mess. And slowly, the anger began to seep in. Not the fiery kind, the cold kind. The kind that settles in your bones when you realize someone didn't just hurt you, they chose to. Over and over again. Mason texted every day. At first, it was begging. Please come home. I made a mistake. We can fix this. Then it turned into guilt tripping. You're keeping my daughter from me. You're blowing this out of proportion. And finally, the truth slipped out. Bianca's threatening to file for child support if I don't stay involved. I can't lose everything, Ava. Please don't do this. I didn't reply to any of them. Because every message proved exactly what I'd already learned. He wasn't sorry for what he did. He was sorry he got caught. One morning, about 2 weeks after I left, I sat outside on the porch with Lily bundled in my arms, a cup of lukewarm coffee in hand. The sky was a soft shade of gold. The kind of morning you'd never expect heartbreak to live in. My mom came out and sat beside me. You're stronger than I ever was at your age, she said gently. When I was 21, I could barely figure out how to pay a phone bill. I smiled a little. I don't feel strong. You don't have to, she said. You just have to keep showing up. One day at a time. That stuck with me. So I did. I showed up. I went back to community college part-time and let my professors know what had happened. Most of them were understanding. One even gave me extra time on my final paper after I broke down crying in her office. I started therapy, something I never thought I'd do. But the first time I told a stranger the whole story, I felt something crack open inside me. Like maybe healing wasn't just possible, it was necessary. And then came the legal part. I met with a lawyer. I brought the screenshots, the video, the messages. I told her I didn't just want to separate. I wanted full custody. Mason could see Lily if he proved consistent and stable. But I wasn't going to let her grow up with the same kind of lies I did. The lawyer nodded and said, "You've got a strong case." Those words felt like oxygen. I wasn't powerless. I wasn't stuck. I had choices. Meanwhile, Mason tried to get in touch in every way possible, email, social media, even showing up outside my parents' house once. My dad told him if he didn't leave, he was calling the police. Mason left. That was the last time I saw him in person. By the time Lily turned 6 months old, I'd started to breathe again. Not the shallow, panic-filled breaths of survival, but real, deep breaths. The kind that fill your lungs and make you remember who you were before everything fell apart. I still cried sometimes. I still missed the version of Mason I thought was real. But grief is strange. It doesn't come in one big wave. It drips. It lingers. And then one day, you realize it's not soaking you anymore. I remember sitting at a cafe near campus with Lily in her stroller, sipping iced tea and flipping through a textbook. She started babbling, waving her hands wildly at an older woman sitting nearby. The woman smiled at me and said, "She looks just like you." And just like that, I smiled without it hurting. People say the hardest part of heartbreak is the moment it happens. But that's not true. The hardest part is what comes after. It's waking up the next day and still having to make breakfast. It's folding laundry while remembering the night he told you he loved you. It's watching your baby smile and realizing she'll never know the version of her father you thought he was. But somehow, in all of that, I built something new. And I did it one step at a time. After everything with Mason, I stopped believing in the version of life I thought I wanted. The picture-perfect family. The stay-at-home mom fantasy. The idea that love could fix everything if you just tried hard enough. I realized I didn't need a partner to be whole. I didn't need a man to be a mother. And I definitely didn't need him to raise Lily into the strong woman I hoped she'd become. That realization changed everything. I transferred from community college to an online degree program so I could be home with Lily more often. I started nannying part-time to earn extra money and give Lily time around other kids. The days were long and exhausting, but they were mine. And slowly, I started feeling proud again. The day I turned in my final paper for my child development class, I cried, not because it was hard, but because I had done it despite everything. Despite being left. Despite the betrayal. Despite the nights I cried myself to sleep. Lily started walking on a warm spring afternoon, right in the middle of the living room. I called my mom into the room, and we both shrieked and clapped while Lily waddled from one couch to the other like a tiny champion. I wanted to tell Mason. I almost did. I almost pulled out my phone to record it and text it to him. But then I remembered the video. The one of him holding another baby, with that soft, loving tone I hadn't heard in months. And I realized something. He didn't deserve to witness this moment. Because he chose to leave. Not just physically, but emotionally, spiritually. He walked out the second he decided to split his life in two. And I wasn't going to keep inviting him back into mine just because of biology. Eventually, we went to court. Mason tried to make a case for joint custody, said he wanted to be involved. But he couldn't explain the second phone, or the fake work schedule, or the fact that Bianca had already filed her own child support case and confirmed everything I said. The judge looked over at me, calm, prepared, present, and then looked at him, disorganized, defensive, and half the man he used to pretend to be. I got full custody. He was granted supervised visits once a month if he stayed consistent. He didn't. After 3 missed appointments, I stopped checking the clock. It hurt at first. I won't lie. Because for all his lies, there was still a part of me that wanted him to change. To show up. To fight for Lily. But eventually, I realized that people only change when they want to. And I couldn't force Mason to be a father any more than I could force him to love me the way he once said he did. So, I focused on us. Lily and me. I started posting small pieces of our life online, photos of her first words, her wild curls after bath time, the chaos of single motherhood with a splash of humor. I didn't expect anything from it. It was just an outlet. But somehow, people found me. Other young moms. Other women who had been lied to. Women who married their first love only to discover they were just a chapter, not the whole book. They messaged me, shared their stories, thanked me for being honest. And that gave me something I hadn't felt in a long time. Purpose. I started a blog. Then a podcast. I shared my story, not just the pain, but the rebuild, the healing. The messy middle where you're not sure who you are anymore, but you're showing up anyway. Lily turned 2 the same week I signed a lease on our own apartment. Nothing fancy, just a 2-bedroom with peeling linoleum and squeaky floors, but it was ours. I painted the walls pale yellow and let Lily pick out her own bedding. She chose dinosaurs. Some nights, I still thought about Mason. Not with longing, just with curiosity. Who is he now? Did he ever regret what he did? Did he realize he'd thrown away something real? But then Lily would crawl into my lap with her favorite book and say, "Mama, read it again." And all of that would fade into the background. Because this was real. This was the family I rebuilt from the ashes. And I was proud of it. Years passed. The pain faded. The scars didn't. But I learned that scars aren't signs of weakness. They're reminders that you survived something that tried to break you. And if you survived that, you can survive anything. One afternoon, I got an email from Mason. It had been almost 3 years. He said he was sorry, that he finally understood what he'd lost, that Bianca had moved on, that he wasn't with anyone now, and he thought about me and Lily every day. He asked if I'd ever consider letting him meet her again. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I closed the laptop, because the truth is, I wasn't angry anymore. But I was done looking back. I had a daughter who needed me, a life I built from the wreckage. A future that looked nothing like what I planned, but everything like what I deserved. And that was more than enough.